Hi guys, this will be a different kind of video. A lot of YouTubers talk about exercise equipment and how to do exercises, and that's great. I mean, people need to know that. But I think that a home gym owner should go beyond what is the latest and greatest adjustable dumbbells or the newest power rack attachment. Um, that kind of thing. I mean, yeah, it's good. If you're looking to upgrade your gym or creating a home gym, it's good to know that. But I also think that home gym owners should be focused on science-based strength training methods, and understand the biological and the psychological components of strength training. And what I want to talk to you today about are three different topics, and they both touch on the physiological, or the physical, and the psychological, meaning the brain. Now, if you watch my other videos, I talked about how Eugene Sandow said that the brain is just as important, if not more than important, than his adjustable spring grip dumbbell. That you can develop strength, endurance, and size just by consciously contracting your muscles as tight as you possibly can. And he believed you could do that to any of your muscles. And Eugene Sandow was famous not only for his physique, and he's known as the father of modern bodybuilding. In fact, the Sandow Trophy, which is given to the winner of each year's Mr. Olympia contest, is named after Eugene Sandow. But he was also a professional strongman who would challenge other professional strongmen much bigger and heavier than he was. And Eugene Sandow would defeat them, even though he was only 5'9", and only weighed 202 pounds. And that's because Eugene Sandow knew how to recruit more of his muscles using the law of muscular irradiation, and which stands for the principle that when a muscle is hard at work, it will recruit its neighboring muscles, and if they're already part of the action, it will amplify their strength. And Eugene Sandow would lift with more of his muscles than his opponents could recruit theirs. And even though he was lighter and smaller, he was stronger, because the more motor units or muscle cells that you recruit, the greater force that can be generated. But what's interesting about Eugene Sandow is that he was defeated by a woman, Katie Sanwina, who outlifted Sandow in a strength contest. And Katie Sanwina lifted 300 pounds over her head, while Eugene Sandow can only bring it to his chest. Now, perhaps Eugene Sandow had an off day. Anyone who's ever competed knows that some days you're stronger than others. Some days you're in the zone, you can't be beat, and other days it's a great struggle just to put in a mediocre effort. Perhaps that's the case, but it points out that the muscular potential of both men and women is largely unused. And if you ever read Power to the People by Pavel Tsatsouline, he claims that only 20 to 30% of a person's muscular potential is accessed, and that anywhere from 70 to 80% is unused. That made me curious, so I researched it, and it led me to the topic of hysterical strength. And there's been many examples of hysterical strength where people have done superhuman things. For instance, Jack Kirby, a Marvel comic book fame, said he created the Incredible Hulk after being inspired after watching a woman lift a car off of her trapped child. Another person, Angela Cavallo from Lawrenceville, Georgia, in 1982 lifted a 1964 Chevrolet Impala off of her son, who was unconscious after the bumper jack fell, and she lifted the car 4 inches off the ground and held it for 5 minutes while kicking her son, trying to revive him. If you can imagine that. I mean, lifted the car 4 inches off the ground while trying to kick her son, and to get him, to waken him. An 11-year-old child saw it happen and ran down the street and got 2 neighbors who ran back and put the jack back underneath the car and dragged her son to safety. And remember, Angela Cabello was a grandmother in her late 50s when this occurred. A 22-year-old woman by the name of Lauren Kornacki rescued her father after the jack slipped on his BMW, and she lifted the car, which weighed 3,000 pounds or so, and after doing that gave him CPR and saved his life. And as strange as that may sound, in Oregon in 2013 a man was trapped under a 3,000-pound tractor, and his 2 daughters, one who was named Hannah, who was 16 years old, and the other was named Haley, lifted the tractor off of him. And the man's name was Jeff Smith. So, the daughters were Hannah and Haley Smith. But the 2 daughters was 16 and 14 years old. They were just teenagers, but they lifted a 3,000-pound tractor off of him. And I find this very, very interesting because the fact there is hysterical strength gives proof or evidence that men and women have tremendous muscular potential that they don't use. So that raises the issue of how can we tap this untapped muscular potential? Well, what keeps us from tapping it is our brain, because the brain is the regulator for our muscles. It sends the neural commands, to contract. And the problem is that the brain uses pain as a safety mechanism, because if we were to fully use 100% of our muscular potential, it could result in muscle tears, ligament damage, torn tendons, and even broken bones. So one of the problems with trying to tap your muscular potential is your brain is interfering, and the brain is doesn't want you to lift heavy weights. And what it does is send signals to you, both especially with pain, and to get you to stop. So this raises the issue is whether any pain you feel is physiological or whether it's psychological. Is it just your brain telling you that, you need to stop? The fact that the brain can stop you from lifting more, from being stronger, raises the issue of can the brain be overridden? And the answer is yes, it can be overridden, and I'll give you examples of how it can be overridden. For instance, drugs. Police officers will tell you about how difficult it is to control a criminal suspect who's strung out on PCP or on cocaine or methamphetamines, because all those narcotic substances can dull the pain sensors in their bodies, in the criminal suspects' bodies. And since they don't feel pain, they can exert more force. Another example is mental illness can override the brain. And there's been instances in psychiatric institutions where mentally ill inmates will exhibit incredible strength. They'll bend the bars, off their windows, the metal bars. And I seen this myself when I was working at the Marion Correctional Institution, which was at the time a close max prison about 40 miles north of Columbus, Ohio. But there was an inmate we kept under segregated housing because he was mentally ill. And he took his bed apart. I mean, a metal bed, a prison bed, his bunk. And I don't know how he did it, but he took every spring out and every bolt and he had like hundreds of different pieces. And it was just amazing because every time you get near a cell, he would throw the metal pieces at you. And, it was a real problem. What amazed me is how did he get that bed apart in so many different pieces? In another instance, a man lifted a car off of a teenager to rescue him. And when he got home, he found out that he had cracked 8 of his teeth after clenching his teeth while exerting his muscular potential. And he didn't realize he had cracked his teeth until after, the adrenaline had subsided. But just the amount of force that he generated just by clenching his teeth caused 8 of his teeth to crack. Another way to override the brain, because remember, the brain is trying to regulate your muscular actions. So if it thinks that your body's in danger of injury, it's going to try to shut you down by sending those pain sensations to you. But powerlifters do this, and they use emotions to unlock their muscular potential, or at least a larger percentage of it. For instance, it's not uncommon at a powerlifting meet to see a powerlifter's coach slap him or shout at him and scream at him and try to get him in a rage, make him angry, because the anger overrides the brain. And it's been said that emotion overrides reasoning. And I can assure you there are many prison inmates who let their emotions do something incredibly stupid that got them life sentences. For instance, killing another person over a cigarette, or over a verbal slight. I mean, no person in their right mind would do that, but there are people that will kill another person, or stab another person, or injure him over something stupid, because their emotion overrode their common sense, their brain. So how can you unlock this muscular potential with your emotions? Fear will help you unlock your muscular potential because it releases adrenaline. And adrenaline allows your muscles to contract harder by sending more blood, open up the capillaries and the blood vessels and the arteries to allow more oxygen and glucose to be released. It causes hormonal changes. But emotions can override reasoning. So how can you unlock the emotions? Well, one way is through visualization, is to imagine. Imagine. There's an old saying that if you don't like the way you feel, change the way you think. So if you're feeling bad and blue and depressed, if you think happy thoughts, you will feel happy. If you think depressing thoughts, you'll feel depressed. So if you don't want to feel depressed, think happy thoughts. Don't think depressing thoughts. Well, the same type of mental tool can be used to unlock your muscular potential. Is that you can imagine your worst enemy, and remember what made you so enraged, what made you so angry, and to induce that anger within yourself, to visualize that event that you'll never forget, that just made your blood boil, and that will induce your body to release hormones that will help you lift more, that will increase your muscular potential. This I'm going off on a tangent here, but I want to explore this issue more. What B.F. Skinner said was that freedom is an illusion, that mankind is a product of his conditioning along with his genetics. So how is this relevant in terms of muscular potential and hysterical strength? And how powerlifters use slapping techniques and screaming techniques to induce rage and anger, which unlocks muscular potential. Well, this is how. What B.F. Skinner is essentially saying that mankind can be conditioned, that mankind is conditioned, which means that you can be conditioned. And I'll take that a step further, that you can condition yourself. And I know this for a fact because in the United States Marine Corps, the Marine Corps in the recruit training brainwashes Marine recruits, and they do it by repetition, and they do it by punishment. You know that if you don't conform to their expectations, then you're going into the pit. You do what they call a pit call. In a pit call, you go in this big sandy area and you just do exercises, calisthenics for 40 minutes at a time, 15 minutes an hour, whatever. And while you're doing side straddle hops and mountain climbers and bends and thrusts, you're digging a hole. The sand is being displaced, so you're digging a pit for yourself, which makes it much harder. If you ever exercise in sand, you know what I mean. It's a pit call. It's something you'll never forget. And in the Marine Corps, you do a lot of pit calls in basic training because when one person screws up, the platoon pays. But what I'm getting at is that in the Marine Corps, what they indoctrinate you, what they preach to you, what they instill in you is pain. It feels good. And when you're running, you're doing cadences. Pain feels good. Make it hurt like it should. No pain, no gain. I can do it if I try. If he can do it, so can I. And it's just a repetition. It's and they instill this cadence in you, and you do this day in and day out, and you're running, and after a while you start believing that pain feels good. You actually believe that pain feels good, and you're running to make that pain, more intense. And if you break through the pain barrier, in the Marine Corps you will, because you don't have a choice, you'll get, runners know this, they get runner stitch. And you get a pain in your side. If you run through it, your body will flood your bloodstream with endorphins. And it's like being on drugs. It's like being a high, because it is a natural high. And in weightlifting, they call it the pump. Is that you get break past the pain barrier, you get the endorphins flowing, and you just feel great. You feel euphoric, and it's because of the endorphins. But what I'm saying is that in the Marine Corps, they brainwash their recruits, and you can utilize this tool to brainwash yourself. And using the same kind of brainwashing techniques that the Marine Corps uses, is using the repetition and the punishment system. Whereas if you fail to meet your expectation, you punish yourself by doing another 50 push-ups or whatever. It's an interesting topic because it raises many issues, like whether his pain is physiological or whether it's mental, whether it's just the brain trying to protect the body from possible injury. Because if it's mental, it can be overridden